Hello vinyl community, this is Mark at Westchester coming at you, and I am doing this video as an entry to SublimMedias 1000 subscriber contest. And Jonas, I have at least one thing you might be interested in checking out. I got about 8 or 9 or something, things that I think are pretty rare and or rare. Okay, so here we go. Do we know what this is? This is the Beatles Yesterday and Today album. Yes, you can read that. Well, this was only released in America, and Capitol Records decided that that they would make a little bit more money by releasing, for every 2 albums that Parlophone would release, Capitol would release 3. They put less tunes on it. They wouldn't put singles on, and they put singles on it. So this was one of those albums, and the Beatles weren't too crazy about the fact that Capitol did this, because they felt that Capitol was ripping off the public, which they were. Anyway, so during a photo session for this album, they did this and decided this would be the cover of the album, and it was released and put in stores all over America. Well, Americans didn't really like that too much, and Capitol freaked out and took back all of the what they are now called Butcher albums and replaced it with this new cover here. This is sort of like the new shiny cover. This is a 1970s pressing. So if you look very closely, right here is a V. You can see a bit of a shadow right next to my finger there, right there. Hold it still. Okay. That is where Ringo's turtleneck and his smock come in. And here it is again. And there it is. I know I'm taking time for this, but this is kind of cool. Check out the decapitated babies and stuff. They're not babies, they're dolls. And there's even like, so many choppers on here, dentures. They look like they're having fun. Yes, okay. So there's the Butcher album, and I talked to a dealer about this in 1984, which is now 24 years ago, 1994, and he said it was worth about $400. So I don't know what it's worth now. Okay. Another English band, the Rolling Stones, put out something that became kind of cool. This is a lenticular cover. A lenticular cover. Check out their faces changed. Can you see that? This is an original 1968 copy of this album that my grandfather bought me, and he thought it was the Beatles. He didn't know the Beatles from the Rolling Stones, obviously. The album is beat. I didn't like this album, and I was really bummed out it wasn't a Beatles album too, because I wasn't into the Rolling Stones when I was a kid. Anyway, so this is yet another one of my records that's kind of rare. Now to more obscure rare records. This is something if all of you out there are interested in oral landscape music. David Behrman's On the Other Ocean and Figure in a Clearing is a beautiful piece of work that was only available through Lovely Music, or New Music Distribution Service. It was released in 1977. This is wonderful. Highly recommended. Next, I'm going to go through some Philadelphia bands that came out starting in the late 60s. This is, I'm going to guess, a pretty rare recording on Poppy Records, the Mandrake Memorial. My parents were deeply into this. My mother especially loved this band. Picked this album up. I don't think it's super, super rare, but it's pretty darn rare. Here's their second album, Medium, and the Poppy record label. We'll open this up here and you'll see. I even have a clip. This is like a review of the album. If you want to freeze it, you can read the review. And the Poppy record label is a beautiful record label. Really nice. Okay, so just to show you the group, there's a photo here. There is the band. Their stuff is kind of like the Doors, kind of, because they had the keyboard that sounded very much like Ray Manzarek. Their stuff is a little bit more, shall we say, stony, psychedelic, kind of, not rough like the Doors. Okay, getting into the 80s. This is I'm gonna guess a pretty rare record. Baru Reviews. Be Careful Tonight, a live record that they put out on their own record label. There's the band there, and I just saw I think that's Greg Davis. He just played in Philadelphia just the other night. This was a fun album if you can find it, and you want to hear some good rock music played live by a band. It's pretty darn good. Check them out. Okay, I'll pull out this album. There's an album here. It is rare. It's not that rare, but it's a killer album, and it's from the Hooters. We all know the Hooters. This was their Philadelphia release, and I have a few of these, a couple unopened. This is the best Hooters album. If you don't have it and you like the Hooters, get this album. It's so much better than the ones released on Columbia Records. This was released on Antenna Records, and that's my guitar teacher, John Lilly. Well, he was my guitar teacher when I was 14. Okay, speaking of guitar, hear this in the background. You've been listening to Steve Tibbits. He's a guitarist from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is his first album, and this is a self-released copy of it. ECM picked up this record years later, and this is wonderful, and I decided to go for it and buy this copy because I wanted an original from him. I saw him play in Philadelphia about 20 years ago. It's the last time he played in Philly, and not too many people there, but he was so wonderful. He plays acoustic and electric guitars. All kinds of beautiful sounds come from him, and he writes great music. This is a letter that he sent to the guy that he was trying to entice to play or give him a review. So I have all this stuff that was in the original release. Steve Tibbits, YR, Your is the name of the album. The vinyl itself looks like... It's got to come out sometime. There you go. Looks like that. Okay, so I have something not from this area, something from Canada that I bought. I think this is Frank Zappa, Hot Rats picture disc. Don't see too much of these. My favorite next to, well, this is a favorite album of mine next to One Size Fits All. And finally, I'm going to tell you about two records that I put out that are pretty rare. One alternative is my band Green Lawn was our first album released back in 1986. John Takeoff of the Philadelphia Daily News said, "This is the best independent record to come out of these parts in many moons." I have about 20 copies left. If anybody wants to inquire, feel free to do so. It's two guitars and oboe. And you see there, let me see. There's Jill Haley, and there's Frank McDermott, Jill, myself. There's me. A nice little blurb up here from local legend Gene Shea. And yeah, did that in 1986, and sort of came full circle with this album, released last year. Twilight. There's me, Jill. I play all the instruments minus the oboe and the organ and piano that James McLaughlin plays. And this is the inner sleeve here. And this is rare, and I'll tell you, the vinyl was pressed in Germany at Pallas, which is one of the best in the world. Went totally first class with this album. I have about 450 copies left. If you might be interested, you can check out. I have other YouTube videos that I explain all the songs on this album, how I came about recording them, and what inspired me to do them, and so on and so forth. So that will do it. That is my almost 10-minute video on the rare stuff that I have. And Jonas, thank you for doing the contest. It was a heck of a lot of fun. Bye.